What's the dumbest thing an ex ever said to try and win you back? Story 1. If we break up, it's just a matter of time before you ask for your laptop back and I use it for school, so I'm going to have to drop out and my kids are going to be raised in poverty. Do you really want that on your conscience? Edit. I lent him my extra laptop before I realized he bleeds all the women in his life dry of all their resources. I wasn't about to let him keep it after the crap he put me through. I got my laptop back when we broke up and he destroyed the power cord and messed up the laptop to the point that it wouldn't run. I fixed it, but lesson learned. Story 2. I was once friends with a guy who told me he cut my name into his leg after I told him I had no interest in being in a relationship with him. He also told me about a bunch of other self-harm and made me spend a good few nights, including a whole New Year's Eve, talking him out of suicide. Or so I thought, until a mutual friend stayed the weekend at his house, got a good look at both pristine and unscarred legs and arms, and reported this back to me. Little B made the whole thing up because it meant I'd spend hours telling him how much he mattered to people. He knew I was sensitive to it because my family had been extensively affected by it. If I'd had any sense at the time, I'd have called the police round to the family home for a welfare check the first time he did it. Story 3. I had an ex do this to me too. Since Opus did not respond, I'll tell my story. We were engaged and living together in a home that I purchased. My ex was paying rent to me towards the mortgage. When we broke up, obviously I kicked him out. When we met up to talk about things, he told me, "You know, I could sue you for kicking me out." He worked as a lawyer. Well, he moves out and gives me a list of things he wants back when he moves out. I give him everything on the list, including the engagement ring. I don't really think much of it until 3 months later when I get a letter delivered to my house from the court saying that he is suing me for over $10,000. His justification: he wanted all of the money back that he paid in rent because he thought that he was gaining equity since when we got married, the house would have been put into both of our names. In addition, he could only sell the engagement ring for half of what he had paid it for, so he wanted the difference back. He also wanted money for other items that he had never asked for back that were given to us as housewarming gifts. He claimed that they were wedding gifts, and since I had backed out of marrying him, he should get the money back for them. Long story short, I had to hire a lawyer who informed me that everything that he wanted had no basis in court and I had done exactly what was required of me by law by giving him back the ring. I think he was really just hoping it would scare me into paying him $10,000 to get him off my back. My lawyer wrote a letter back to him threatening to countersue if he did file a suit and basically saying how his claims had no legal ground whatsoever. I haven't heard from him again and it's been almost 3 years. Thank God we didn't actually get married though. I'm sure the legal fees from that divorce would have been way worse. Story 4. After telling me she didn't love me, leaving the kids with a friend whilst I was at work so she could go get drunk with her male friend, getting drunk whilst throwing my son a birthday party and texting her male friend whilst locking herself in her bedroom and letting the other parents run the party for her, I was at work. The final straw came when she told me I wasn't invited to a party her brother was throwing, so I had to stay home to watch the kids. She had left herself logged onto social media, so her sexual messages to her male friend were pinging up every minute or so until he told her the taxi was outside. I changed the locks that night and packed her clothes and put them outside her mom's house. When she came home, she was screaming and throwing bricks at the house, so I told her if she didn't leave, I'd call the police. Drum roll please. But you can't just turn off 10 years of marriage. You must still love me. Story 5. I had to pull over my car because she was threatening to jump out of the passenger door. When I finally pull over on the side of the road, we are about a mile from her place when she starts marching down the road. I have a bunch of crap in my trunk because I picked her up from practice that afternoon. If you don't take me back, then I'm going to tell my parents that you assaulted me. Continues marching towards her place with tears down her face. I broke up with her that night because she stole my car, punched my best friend in the face, hit on my other friend, and then talked badly of my parents. Yikes. Story 6. When I first tried to break up with her, she just kept saying no until I gave in. She said no for more than 10 minutes. The second time I tried to break up with her, she pulled the same trick. But this time, ready for it, I beat her at her own game and said yes in response. When I got bored of this back and forth, I said, well, it's a yes, so I'm sorry. Goodbye. She then messaged my brother and sister-in-law, whom she had never met, telling them that I needed to call her back right away because she was unstable and didn't know what she was capable of. When my brother told me that I told him to ignore her, she continued to message them saying everything from she was pregnant to she deserves better. She Deserves me. After 24 hours of relentlessly contacting my family, a family of 7 total, I turned my phone back on and saw I had 150 texts and 19 voicemails from her. As an aside, this is where I learned an iMessage can only be so long. When it exceeds the maximum character count, you have to press on the message and it is opened up on the Notes app. When I called her back, she immediately started yelling at me, saying things like, "How dare I? Who do you think you are? She deserves better." I told her I would hang up and block her everywhere I could if she didn't stop yelling at me. I called to have a conversation about why I wanted to break up with her so she could get some closure. She calmed down, and in the coolest tone I've ever heard her speak, she told me that she would tell her dad that I was physically and verbally abusive to her if I didn't get back together with her. Her dad was not a particularly big or scary guy, but he works with my dad where I also work, and it would have been a career ender for me if they had believed her. I decided to roll the dice and tell her that her dad knows she has mental issues and there is no way he would believe her. I knew her dad before I knew her, so I was 25% confident he would take my side. She did have mental issues. For whatever reason, she believed me and went back to crying and yelling at me. I said goodbye. Please don't contact me again. After 6 more months of repeated attempts to contact me, I found out she got engaged to some poor guy. I don't know how, who, why, or when it happened, but I was happy it was finally over for me. Unfortunately, I was wrong. She will still follow and unfollow my girlfriend and her dog's Instagram account, as well as like and unlike 2+ year-old pictures on their accounts. She is now married as of a few months ago and is still pulling this crap every once in a while. If she wasn't so messed up, or if I didn't respect her dad so much, I would have contacted the guy she married and told him. But at the end of the day, it's just not worth it. I may have handled it poorly, but she was a complete nightmare to date. She had crazy mood swings, would yell at me in front of my family and friends, was incredibly bossy, and we had nothing in common. Only a crazy person would think the relationship was going somewhere. Broke up with my borderline pedophile ex-boyfriend when I was 21. We started dating when I was 16 and he was 25. He has rich grandparents that would take us to Disney every year, sometimes twice a year. But anyways, I broke up with him, and I remember he goes, "My grandparents would have bought you a car." He then dated a 17-year-old promptly after me, and when she broke up with him, he says to her, "My grandparents would have taken you to Disney World." Story 7. I broke up with a guy in senior year of high school. 2 weeks later, he called me to tell me that he thought we should break up, since he had refused to allow me to break up with him earlier, despite the fact that I said I was done. He said that if I came to my senses, he'd consider taking me back. I told him that was never going to happen, but wished him luck. The fun epilogue of this story comes 2 years after that. I logged into AIM to chat with my college best friend, and and behold, he logged on. I said hi and asked how he was doing. He said he had a fiance, but that there was an issue, and asked for a favor. I asked what it was because I was curious. He asked for a picture of my feet. When I asked why, he explained that the only way he could get off was by picturing me coming home from a long day of work on my feet and making him clean my sweaty feet with his tongue. If he could see my feet, he was pretty sure he could get over it. I asked if he'd tried role-playing with his fiancée, since it was almost certainly the power dynamic he liked and not specifically me, especially since he and I never did anything remotely like that. He said that they'd tried, but it didn't work, and it was my feet, or he couldn't get hard. He then asked if I'd be willing to boss around him and the woman he was going to marry, so that he could maybe juice from intercourse with her. I logged off of AIM and have never logged in again. Story 8. My ex contacted me and asked if we could talk so she could apologize. I agreed to talk to her. Within the first couple minutes of the conversation, she started randomly talking about what it would be like to be my BDSM pet or slave. When I said I'd expected her to apologize about how she treated me during the relationship, she berated and insulted me for wanting an apology. Then I said I'd hoped she'd at least apologize for threatening to kill my cat, which I feared she'd do since she actually did try to kill her mother's dog. She said, "I guess we'll have to agree to disagree about the value of useless animals." At that point, I just quit talking to her. Hello, the editor here. That last story was too cool. Like and subscribe for more. Story 9. I had my sub over Friday, and she woke me up in the morning from a dream I was having about laying in my bed spooning you the same way, and she asked me why I looked like I was going to cry, and I pretended I was fine and held her and felt like throwing up because she wasn't you, and I felt like I was doing something wrong even though I wasn't. I don't know what to do. Almost immediately followed by It's fricked up though cause I think about you when I'm having intercourse too. I'm fricking 4 different girls right now and none of them satisfy me in the only way I can. Juicing them as if I pretend I'm inside of you. And I just want to fill you with juice over and over. I wish we could just casually frick. It would be good. Frick the anger out. I don't think I need to tell the intelligent folks of Reddit that this dude was controlling, obsessive, and just out of his goddamn mind in general. Story 10. She tried to recruit me to be a part of a project with the guy that she cheated on me with. She was somewhat involved with the project as well. I don't know if it was a ploy to win me back or rekindle some sort of friendship. Maybe she was just stupid and thought that I forgot about everything. Who knows? She even gave me her new contact information and said I hope we can talk soon. Get a hold me sometime. I found it hilarious and I called her out on it. Basically told her that I'm not interested in participating in the project because the project itself simply didn't interest me. I didn't forget about everything. I still think you're a crappy person and I have absolutely zero respect for you. I'm insulted and flabbergasted that you would ask me to be a part of something where I would be working alongside the guy you cheated on me with and subjected to being around you. Why would I help you out after you, figuratively speaking, stabbed me in the back? If you're trying to rekindle some sort of association between us, I'm not letting you back into my life that easily. Show me your intentions and we'll go from there. And if you're pulling this buddy crap just to rope me into this project, just cut the rope now and walk away. Story 11. After a relationship of him verbally abusing me, beating me, and raping me in my sleep, I finally mustered up the courage to break up with him. He went to all of his friends and all of my friends telling them that we were still dating and that I have a concussion so I probably won't remember. I find out and confront him. He cuts himself with a key and takes a bunch of Tylenol hoping to kill himself. He's in the hospital for a bit, gets out, proceeds to tell me his meds told him that I have him good intercourse even when I didn't know it, hence my mentioning of the sleep assault, therefore I need to still date him. My current fiancé told him off as soon as he heard of this. Story 12. We were married for 9 years with 3 kids. One day she just didn't come home. She'd moved in with her boss. I'd known something was up for a while, but at the time, I wasn't brave enough to address it. 4 months later, after any of us had barely heard from her, she called and asked for the Keurig. She wanted to pick it up when the kids weren't at home. An argument followed. I remember her insinuating that I just keep it there in case she ever comes back. I remember laughing and asking her if she thought I was holding that door open for her. She said, "You were always so polite," as if I were offering. I apologized for confusing her, hung up, and made a sweet cup of Folgers hazelnut coffee. Story 13. I told my ex I was getting an apartment because things weren't working out anymore. He insisted that I stay in the house and that he would find another place to live. The house was in both of our names. Okay, fine. In the course of about 3 weeks, he repeatedly broke into the house. I changed the locks twice and hid tape recorders in the flooring. I freaked the frick out and went to the police. They took my statement and warned him not to contact me. About a week later, I woke up one day to find him army crawling on the floor into my bedroom. I screamed at him to get the frick out of my house, and to this day, I really don't think he understood why I was so upset. About a week later, I came home from work. I worked 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. to find the power was out and it was freezing in my house. I called public service and they told me that the other person on the account had called and said that we had moved out, so they came and tagged it out. I was shaking. I was so mad. I explained what was going on, and they said that due to it being New Year's Eve the next day, they wouldn't be able to send someone out to get me back up for 3 days. I had to take my dog and my pet turtle, who lives in a giant aquarium, and stay in a hotel for 2 nights. About another week later, I'm back at home of course, and sleeping off and on. I hear something, and look outside to see my ex jumping off the back porch and running towards the woods. I freaked the frick out and called the police of course. I talked to the same cop that dealt with me before, and he said to call back if he came back. I was frustrated that that was his response, and told him well he's not gonna come back again. Today, I swear to God, about a half hour later, I was laying in my bed. I was too freaked out to sleep, and I see a shadow move very fast by the window. I was like, oh hell no. I just knew it was him. I grabbed my cell and dialed 911 and told them that he was back. Not 5 minutes later, I heard sirens screaming outside and 2, then 3 cop cars come hauling down the driveway. I hear them yell at him, and I watched him get arrested right outside my door. After being terrified for the last month of my life, I felt so relaxed and safe. I ended up oversleeping for work that night because it was the first sound sleep I'd gotten. Everyone at work knew what had been going on, so I woke up to a bunch of missed calls from my manager and a couple co-workers freaking out and asking if I was okay. We laugh about it now and refer to him as the low crawler, but I assure you that at the time I was freaking terrified. You'd think that after almost 7 years, you'd know someone. I really wonder if you thought that after doing all of those things, I was going to be like, hey, I can see you really do still care, let's give it another shot. Story 14. I was supposed to drive 4 hours to meet my ex-husband who cheated on me a week before the wedding but beat me for wanting a divorce, threatened to kill me twice during the divorce, assaulted me 3 times, tried to mess with my birth control to ruin you so no one will want you, made me pay for half my $80 engagement ring in case I was a bad investment, and proposed a month after the divorce, then threatened to kill me and the guy I had over that night because apparently I was his forever since he has intercourse with me at one point. Up to a year after the divorce he was still sending me pics and video of him fricking other women. His reason for me getting back with him after leaving town in the dead of night with no forwarding address. You know I'm that good at intercourse. Story 15. When I was 17, I dated this trailer trash girl from the next school over. Because I was shy and awkward, I had no relationship skills. So, like any young idiot, I fell wildly in love with the first person that noticed me. Short, blonde, big chest. So fast forward through her cheating on me multiple times, drugs, and her dumping me in fist fights in all ages. Seattle grunge venues, being underage drunk on the Ave in 1992, Doc Martens and People's Faces, lots of head games, like Sid and Nancy, Kurt and Courtney. The crazy ones drag you through hell. Anyway, 20 years later, after Christmas shopping for my wife and kids, I say frick it, I need a beer. Pull off into this random roadhouse, belly up to the bar, look in the mirror and there behind me in former Little Miss Blonde. Except now ... she's shaped like a fire hydrant and has a voice like a tuba, like if Janis Joplin and a trucker had a baby and she grew up. Because it's Christmas, I order a second beer. I bring it to her. I introduce myself. She gives me a big hug. We find a table and start catching up. I have a home and a family I love. She's still single, parties, and is into bikers. Instantly, she starts talking about all the intercourse we had, in pretty good detail, which was flattering, sort of, yet uncomfortable. Then she asks what I'm doing that night. All these awful memories of train wreck relationship come flooding back. Crap I'd emotionally buried and forced myself to forget. Public arguments and fights, drugs, dysfunctional relationship hell. Then I think about the presents in my car, my home, my family. I finished my beer, wished her Merry Christmas, snuffed out my cigarette, got up, walked out, and never looked back. Story 16. I will live on this bench, I will sleep here, until you come out here and talk to me and take me back. Left for college an hour away from home. High school BF said I was selfish for going so far away from him. Never stopped trying to get me to decline a full ride to a great private school. Helps me move into my dorm. Oh, this place is amazing. You're going to love it. Here, what a great decision. Relative to the rest of the relationship. Things were fine after that, but I couldn't do it after. They crap. Broke up a little over a month into school in front of my dorm building. No one was around, but I did not think that through well. He wouldn't let me leave, tried to follow me into the building when I got up. Knew my schedule, followed me around the rest of the evening. Holed up in my room for the night. He said he was going to wait as long as it took on the same bench I broke up with him on. He was on that bench for a while lol. Story 17. My ex fell out of love with me over 6 months and I tried to get us back on track. However, he decided to end it. I was extremely heartbroken. Until I learned during those 6 months, he used me sexually, was emotionally cold on purpose, and made fun of me around his friends for trying too hard, as well as my anxiety and depression. At that point, we had been together for over 2 years. Finding that out made it extremely harder to deal with, because why would you frick with someone like that? I entered a relationship 2 months afterwards with a really great guy who had always been there for me and didn't expect anything from me at all. After we started dating for a week, he messaged me and said, I regret breaking up with you and wanted to get back together. Story 18. After a month or so, I got a text from her saying, what would you do if I was pregnant? And it was yours. There aren't many things that have genuinely shocked me, but that did. I asked if she was. She evaded and wanted an answer. She finally relented and said she wasn't, but that she had a pregnancy scare since we broke up. Then she admitted that she was still cutting herself while we were together. She said she hadn't. Then went on to blame me for the breakup, saying it was because I got angry when she went out with her friends. I forced you to go out with your friends. She was neglecting them because of me, and it was a way to try and distance myself from her. She may have cheated on me that night as well. Then nothing for about 6 months. Then a random text saying she finally got the bright lime green Converse shoes that she always wanted. I never replied. Story 19. I am super freaking late, and she didn't say it to try to get back with me, but here it goes. I had a pretty awesome job and got to travel the world because of it. We started dating while I was living in the States, and during a about 5-month ongoing work trip to various countries in Europe, I flew her out to Athens, Greece, where I had rented an absolutely baller apartment just outside of the city center for the month for us to stay in and enjoy a mini vacation. I was still working, so I would wake up early on the weekdays and head to a cafe to get some work in. Then I would come back and make her lunch, hang out, go do some activities, then just take my laptop with me when we went to dinner and catch some more work after we were done eating. She was aware of that plan before she came and seemed quite alright with it. We then took a train to Serbia, where we stayed in an apartment in Nis to visit one of my best friends, who is a Serb. More morning work schedule, more partying, etc. We get back to the States. I quit my freaking amazing job so I can find a job in the States so I can live with her and help her with rent while she finishes her master's. I'm totally cool with this. She wants to travel when she's done, so I can do a year or 2 of sitting still. So we shack up in one city about 2 hours away from where she's going to school. I start the job hunt in City A, get a few offers, but they weren't fantastic, so she said I probably shouldn't take them. I say no, keep looking. I get another offer, but then she's considering a school in City B, so I say no because I don't want to accept it, then end up not even moving to said city. I get a job as a security guard in the meantime, just to pay the bills and whatnot. I'm accustomed to working weird hours because of my world traveling job and dealing with time differences, so I volunteer for a lot of the crappy third shift gigs for the various places the security company serviced. Third shift is great. I get home when she's getting up. We go out for breakfast, go for a walk, hang out a little bit, then I go crash until dinner time, rinse and repeat. I can spend my 8-minute 16-hour shifts applying for other jobs, studying for my certifications, etc. etc. So it's a great setup. I'm easily putting in over 70 hours a week. No sweat, usually upwards of 80. She gets into the school in City A, so I say that I'll just transfer my security job over there. I had already investigated it, so I could move with her and still have some income while I applied, interviewed, etc. for the well-paying jobs in my industry. The whole time we've been back in the States, she has been more and more distant. Our intercourse life became virtually non-existent, and she spent most nights while I was at work avoiding texting me and playing video games with her online friends, all of which are incredibly thirsty frick boys. She moves to the college town I'm following in 2 weeks after I can get the transfer finalized and whatnot. On one of my rare days off, we were playing a game of LOL together. We were both gamers, her much more so than I though, and talking on Skype, and in the middle of the fricking game tells me she hasn't cared about me since we got back from Europe, and it's stupid that I have issues with her spending all her time talking to other guys, and I should stop shoving my insecurities on her, and she's disappointed in my being a security guard and that I'm very unmotivated. I say fair enough, what can we do to fix it? Even though I should have blown my fricking top then, because I quit my baller fricking world traveling job to support her through a higher degree. She gives me the let's take some time, grow a little bit, and keep in touch and start out as friends again like we did before. Okay, that's a load of crap, but if it's what you want then I'm on board. A few weeks go by, I don't talk to her because she said she wanted some space. Turns out, she immediately started dating another guy, and had been telling my friends how crappy of a person I was, and how I was doing nothing with my life but being a security guard. Frick her. Story 20. My ex cheated on me over the course of a year and wasn't having intercourse with me. During the entire time, she was living in an apartment that I paid all the bills on, and I took her out multiple times a week. My logic was that I was working really hard in a very stressful environment to further my career, and she was finishing up her college education, so I didn't want to rock the boat. One night her BS got to be too much to take. It was interfering with my ability to perform at work, so I straight out asked her if she was cheating on me, knowing very well what she was up to. This was how the relationship ended. Fast forward 6 months. She was living in Europe. Her current boyfriend situation was obviously not going well, and I was in a happy relationship. She was hinting at the fact that she was unhappy and says, you know, if you frick her, I'll never sleep with you again. This was also after a long conversation about how I needed her because she was good at managing my money and how my current girlfriend was a complete butt. Facebook block well earned, and I haven't talked to her to this day.